We want to build the #1 international baseball league.
Oh, what a catch! What a catch, baby!
Like I said, I feel blessed.
The pitcher grabbed by Schlitter goes for the force of the plate.
Ground ball, double play, game over. Wow!
This is a money ball, gentlemen, and this. Oh, money ball!
Guys, we are back at it once again with the Baseball United podcast, and we are just over a week away from making history in Dubai again with the UAE Series, which is set to kick off February 14th through the 16th at Baseball United Ballpark in Dubai. We're so pumped to be joined today by an infielder for the East Falcons, Mitch Piatnik. Mitch, it's great to see you, bro. How's everything been going?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Everything's going good. Just excited for the upcoming opportunity to go out there and play some baseball.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to get your thoughts on all of that. So let's give the audience a little bit of insight into you first. So you were drafted in the 8th round of the 2015 MLB draft by the Reds. What was your transition into professional baseball like going from college?
It was good. I went to a Division I school my freshman year, and then went to a junior college my sophomore year. So I only spent 2 years in college ball, but the transition was good. We had some good coaches, a bunch of good teammates. The level of play obviously was a big jump. That was probably the biggest transition, but everything else was pretty smooth, enjoyable.
What was the reason, Mitch, for going from a D1 school to a JUCO? Because a lot more guys, as I'm sure you know now, are choosing JUCO over D1 opportunities as well.
My goal was always to get drafted, and I think JUCO just gave me the best opportunity, because if I had a good year, I could go to a Division I school after that, and if I had a good enough year to get drafted, I had that option as well. So I think it just gave me the best chance. I really enjoyed my team at my first school, at the Division I school, but just for me and opportunity wise, I think JUCO was the best option. And I've always preached that to, kids around here that want to, get drafted and stuff. I was like, just go to a JUCO, just find a good JUCO and roll with that.
So Mitch, you were in the Red system for 3-4 years. Got released in around 2018. When you get released, bring me into the mindset where you're at in your baseball career, your personal life also, because that, as you know, baseball affects every aspect of your life.
I think there's two big options when you get released. It's either like, okay, you're done and you're going to go into the working world, or like in my case, I went to indie ball because I felt like my thing was always hitting, and like I defense was good, speed guy, and like I had that one area that kept me from staying in the system and climbing the ranks to the big leagues and stuff. And I felt like, okay, I think I was 23 at the time when I got released. So I knew I had some time left on the clock to figure things out. So I just kept trying to find some opportunities in indie ball to give myself a chance to see if I could, fix my main issue.
I feel like the majority of players at one point or another in their career have kind of experienced the trials and tribulations of baseball, so to speak. And as you mentioned, it's really a crossroads whether you want to continue to go with baseball or if you want to join the workforce, be a regular person. I'm sure you've had plenty of teammates that have experienced that same thing, Mitch. After you get released, what's kind of your off season look like? Like, do you call people? Do you call independent league teams looking for a job? Is it your agent? Maybe a combination of both? I'm curious about how that process works as like a free agent.
Yeah, that first off season is a very long one, because spring training for indie ball starts after spring training for professional baseball ends. So you're sitting there, you're watching the big league spring training games on TV, just going crazy. You're watching I'd watch a lot of the Reds games and see my old buddies getting some at bats in spring training. It's just like you're rooting for them, but it's also like, man, like I want to get back in the door and all that stuff. So like you said, like usually agents, they're really going to work for you when you're in professional baseball, like on the minor league side, major league side. But once you're in indie ball, it's kind of like you pretty much become a penny stock for them. And it's more so you have to be your own agent. You got to find the connections and the different ways and whatever team you want to look for in indie ball and stuff. So it's really up to you at that point.
So Mitch, while you were in the Red system and bounced around the independent leagues for a while, any one of your teammates or coaches that you looked up to as a mentor or something like that, you were able to take how they were going about their business day by day into your own routine?
Probably. I had some good coaches, don't get me wrong, but it was probably more so the players, because I ran into a lot of guys in my situation, whether they were the same age or whether they were a lot older than me. There were some guys that had some big league experience I got to play with in indie ball. So you kind of get something, all across the board, and you can learn a little bit. Like I played with a guy in New York that had some time in the big leagues with Cincinnati, and he was about 38 or 37, 38 years old. So like just being able to pick his brain and talk about like his time in the big leagues and stuff, you get a lot of that in indie ball because those guys, they get up there for a little bit. And obviously they want to get back to the big leagues because they know how awesome it was. So you kind of see their passion even in those like later years of playing, which I thought was really cool.
In the off season, did you ever have like another job outside of baseball?
No, I mean, school was never really my favorite thing. So it's not like I was going to school to like line up a certain job in the future. So I've always known that I wanted to work in baseball. So I think since about 2019, I was still playing indie ball, obviously, for a few years after that, but always would do lessons or any kind of training. And I was always working on like movement stuff to stay healthy on my own. So I did a little bit of that work online with people in pain and stuff. So it was always like centered around what I had learned on my own experience. And I was trying to use that more so for my work than just get like a 9 to 5 job, which nothing wrong with that. Just really wasn't the route I wanted to take.
Obviously, you're still playing, you're still involved in the game. You do run a hitting clinic or you give private lessons, right?
Yeah, so we have a local facility that the city has built for us, and a few of us ex-pro guys are in there giving lessons. So it's a blast. There's a whole pitching side with a couple ex-pro guys that are really smart. We have another hitting guy and a catching guy in there. So it's an awesome atmosphere just to, give back to the community and also make some money for ourselves as well.
How did that first come about? How did you kind of realize you had a passion for essentially giving your knowledge to the youth?
I think it started with me because I was always looking for that thing, like that extra little edge, like how to get better in all these different areas of baseball. And I just got to a point where I was like, okay, I've learned a lot of this trying to help myself. And I think it's easy to help like the younger kids because it's a lot more basic when you're working with a 12-year-old than when you're working with a 25-year-old pro. So it's just, I almost got to a point where I was realizing that what I had learned, I could really just simplify it and then teach it to those younger kids. And it made me better at understanding what I had learned because I had to simplify it because you can't explain to an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old the depths of everything. So it forced me to simplify it in my own head as well. So I think it helped me as well, just giving back to them.
So, Mitch, it sounds to me like you're just such a student of this game and you're constantly looking for new ways to either teach kids or just new things to learn, whether it's swing design or how the body moves, anything like that, which I think is super interesting. And I think that's something we certainly look for here at Baseball United, especially as it relates to our players, is high character individuals who want to give back to the community, who want to grow the game. Well, when you were in the Red system, Hunter Green was in there. You guys kind of shared a little bit of time together.
He was actually
right?
my roommate for I want to say it was 2017, maybe 16. I think 2017. He was my roommate in Dayton for a little bit. So yeah, I got to be around him. So
Awesome. Cool. So, Mitch, you don't need a PhD in baseball to see that kid on the mound and know he's a special type of arm. Even when you guys were that young, would you ever kind of step in the box against him and see if he could get you out? Like, how would your teammates help make you better?
As far as Hunter specifically, I got to stand in for not a live pin, but just one of his bullpens during a spring training just to see it. And obviously it's like that explosive fastball and stuff. And Hunter, like from day one, obviously he had a great arm, but he put in a lot of work with his mechanics and stuff after he got injured with the elbow stuff. So he's a guy that, good example, showed up with some really good talent and skills, but he also found a way to try to perfect everything that he was doing, which helped him get to the big league level with some success.
Very cool. Very cool. What was your relationship off field like? What would you guys do?
It's a lot of just business up there because it's like you're playing so many games. So it's like you do get some downtime, after the game, the locker room and stuff. But it's just very relaxed because like as soon as we get to the ballpark, you're working, you're locked in. So like once you get home, it's just like you're decompressing. Like we might hang out for a little bit, like all the guys. We lived in a basement that we had like 7 or 8 players when I was living with Hunter. So it's just like we're all just trying to relax and get ready for the next day. It's a long season in the minor leagues.
Mitch, what did your personal approach to hitting look like when you're in the box?
Well, like I said, hitting was always my, definitely lowest skill. So I was always searching for something or trying different approaches. So we'd be here for hours talking about every different thing I thought or tried to do in there. But like I said, I was a speed guy. And I was a speed guy that had a lot of swing and miss. So I was always trying to do something that would equal a lot of contact for me. So anything from, just throwing your hands to the ball or trying to hit it to the shortstop, or like I tried all these different cues and stuff, but it all would revolve around how can I make consistent hard contact as much as possible and just let my speed play.
When you're talking to these kids, Mitch, and you're teaching them about hitting and all of this stuff, I'm going to rip a line from our CEO and chairman, Cass Shake, right now. Hitting is a little bit art, a little bit science. How do you kind of balance those two when you're instilling your wisdom on these younger kids?
With the kids, like I said, I try to keep it simple. So I always go over timing first. So like when they come in for their first lesson or that first evaluation, I really don't change. And even if there's a glaring issue with their swing or their stance or whatever, I don't change anything. We just go over timing, what timing is. We do some timing drills just so they have a good base to work around. Like I had a lesson yesterday for the first time and I explained to him, like, listen, we're just going to work on timing today. There's a lot of stuff in your swing that can be fixed, but you have to understand this because every single adjustment is going to be revolved around timing. Because you've heard it before, you can have a perfect swing, but if you're not on time, you're not going to have a chance. That's why we see guys like in the big leagues that are all-stars. They still have a few weeks every season where they go into that little bit of a slump, and it's probably not their swing. They're just not on time for whatever reason.
In this day and age, Mitch, in the social media era, everybody now seems to be a hitting expert.
Yeah.
In your professional opinion, what's the number one flaw you see amongst these so-called hitting gurus online that they're teaching people?
Now, I think a lot of these gurus, because everyone's trying to do the same thing. They're trying to find the best way to teach because everyone kind of agrees what the perfect swing is. We see so many examples in the big leagues and old Hall of Famers and stuff. So everyone agrees on what that good swing is. But the guru side, it's like they're all making their best guess at how to teach the proper fundamentals to reach that. And I think and it's no fault of their own, but I think the biggest, the thing that makes it really misleading is they don't have some of these guys don't have a lot of experience in the box. And I'm not trying to throw any hate at those guys, but when you've been in a box, for 1,000 or 2,000 at bats and you've seen, 97 with cutters and sinkers and splitters and stuff, you really understand how hard this game really is. And it almost hurts on the guru side where they just try to make it so simple. Like, this is what you do and you swing perfect. It's like, well, try doing that on a curveball 0-2 when the guy's got a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. So there's a lot of adjustability and all the technique stuff that I think gets missed because they don't have the experience in the actual games.
Courtney Hawkins on the Arabia Wolves, we had him on our podcast last week, and he also is a hitting instructor, and he was telling me that one of the biggest things he tells these kids is patience is so big because you look at these big leaguers, you look at Aaron Judge, you look at Shohei Ohtani, you look at any of our guys on our rosters who have had immense success at the big league level. They've been doing this for years, decades, multiple decades. So it's so difficult, especially when you're teaching these kids. Patience is key. He also mentioned that teaching the parents that patience is key is very difficult as well. What do you have to say on that front from your experience?
Yeah, and it's kind of the same thing. It's like no fault to the parents because a lot of them didn't play ball, and then they have their kid who's 10 or 11 or whatever, and they want them to be, as good as they possibly can be. So like just right now is all that they see. And then guys like me and like Courtney, for example, I spent a little bit of time with Courtney out in Arizona at a workout or something. He's a pretty good dude, but it's like, it's really hard for them to have that perspective of there's a long road ahead if you want to be as good as you possibly can. And just right now doesn't really matter too much. Like in the cage all the time, even with some of my older high school kids and college kids that are really good hitters, really good players, I'm like, listen, like it's okay if you fail in the cage. Like no one's watching, like there's no game on the line. Like it's okay to fail. So like Courtney's saying patience is key I think that's a great point.
Mitch, so let's talk a little baseball, man. You're going to be on the field in Dubai with the East Falcons. How did you first get involved with Baseball United?
So when I was with the Reds, I always had a good relationship with Barry Larkin. He's one of the greatest dudes I've ever met in baseball. Like he's the Hall of Famer and stuff, but just talking to him, you would never know that he's a Hall of Fame shortstop. He's just such a humble dude.
He's great, man. He's great. And honestly, not to cut you off, but when we were over in Dubai for the Arab Classic this past November, he's talking to all these kids. He just loves this game so much. It's so great to see. It's so refreshing.
Yeah, he lives and dies baseball. He's awesome, man. But so like I said, I had a good relationship with him, and I was playing indie ball. I want to say it was 2021, and I had a pretty good start to the year. First few weeks, I had some pretty good numbers with the hitting stuff, and I reached out to him. I was like, hey, hope all is well. I'm having a pretty good stint in starting indie ball. If you guys have an injury, kind of like we said earlier, you got to be your own agent when you're in indie ball. So I was like, if you guys have an injury somewhere at the AA, AAA level, I'm just asking you to keep me in mind. And he just texted back and said, hey, do you want to play in Dubai? And I was like, what? I was like, if you're going to manage a team out there, sure. Yeah. Like I'm down. He's like, no, I'm not going to manage, but we're setting all this stuff up. I was like, yeah, sure. Like I'm down. And then obviously didn't come to fruition until a few years later, but it just happened over a text message, right place, right time.
That's perfect, man. That's perfect. So, Mitch, when you mentioned Barry Larkin, when you see our ownership group littered with Hall of Famers, former All-Stars, guys who have had such an immense impact on this game, it has to instill a level of confidence in you as a player that our league is going to continue to thrive and be successful.
Yeah, 100%. It's like you have all these guys that have experience, like I said, is so important, and they know they know the game really well, and they also know the business side really well. Like Larkin's been on the other side of this game for a long time. He's obviously helping players still, but he's understanding the business side of everything, just like everybody else in this group. So I think, like, I don't know Cash personally, but he's brought together a really good team around him. In my opinion, that's what good leaders do. They bring a really good team around them and then just, go from there. So I think it's awesome.
I couldn't agree more, Mitch. Whenever we have anyone on the show and we start to talk about Cash, everybody pretty much says the same thing. He's a great leader, and he ultimately surrounds himself with the best people possible to get this mission done. It really does take a special person to lead us to a place that no one's ever gone before. And the growth we've seen just in the last couple of years has been so significant. I'm sure that you have players that you're friends with that our league's kind of the talk of the town to them. I'm sure they're wondering how to get involved, right?
Yeah, I've had a few guys ask me like, "Hey, is there any way I can go out there?" I was like, "I don't know, dude. I got lucky. I talked to Larkin one day and he asked me to do it. So I've had a bunch of guys ask me like, how do I get in there and stuff? But I think it's definitely an exciting thing, and everybody, everyone thinks it's so cool. It's over there in the Mid East, over there in Dubai and stuff. So I think it's just something that's probably going to catch fire. I think you guys have done all the right stuff marketing wise. Like, I pay attention to the social media stuff you guys do. You guys are checking every box that needs to be checked on the marketing side. So I think all of it's great.
So, Mitch, a 3-game set starting February 14th at Baseball United Ballpark, brand new ballpark. I'm pumped for you to be able to see it, get out there and compete. What are you looking forward to most about the UAE series?
I'm really excited to see Dubai because I've never been out there, like I said. And then just I think there's a couple guys that that I know pretty well that are going to be out there. It's going to be good to see them and stuff too. But just to play baseball is always fun. So just getting to go out there and play some baseball, and being in front of a crowd that's never seen or hasn't seen a lot of baseball before. I think it's just going to be a fun experience and all the aspects of it.
Who would you say, Mitch, are you most excited to share the field with that maybe you haven't shared the field with before?
I know Sandoval's on our team. I've never met him. I think it'll be cool, see how he goes about his work. He's also obviously a seasoned big leaguer and stuff like that. So I'm just excited to be out there and just see all the guys, meet some new people.
Being one of the first players to help bring the sport to that part of the world, you have to feel some sense of pride, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really cool thing. Like I said, it's just exciting to go out there to play some baseball. I think maybe, years down the road, I think, having some pride about it might come more into play. Cause if you look back on 5 or 6 years and this league is just like this huge thing, it'll be a little bit cooler to be like, yeah, I was out there for the, one of the first things that they were doing. So I think the bigger this league gets, the more exciting it is that we got to go out there and help start it a little bit. But most of us, if you ask all these guys, we're just excited for some opportunity to play some baseball.
Absolutely. I've said on the show before, Mitch, like being on this ride, on this journey for almost a year now, personally, has been crazy. I absolutely love it. It's so cool to me that with essentially everything we do, we're making history. We're the first professional franchises to play baseball in the Middle East. We're the first ballpark and only ballpark in the Middle East. The list goes on and on. So it's just been really an incredible journey. And I'm so excited for guys like you who have never been over there yet to experience our ballpark, experience the atmosphere, and really experience what Baseball United is all about.
Yeah, I think it's from a marketing standpoint, I think it's brilliant because it's like an area that doesn't have a lot of baseball. I know cricket's It's really big over there. So I think it was just this huge open space for baseball to step in. And I think everyone's taking these, huge leaps and taking some chances. But I think the whole thing is awesome to just go over there and just try to get baseball started because it's such a great game. It teaches so many things outside of just playing baseball. And for that to be happening in another part of the world, I think is awesome.
Mitch, before we let you go, what's your message to the fans who are anxiously awaiting for you to come over there and start competing?
Oh, I'm just really excited to come play some baseball and just see the energy the crowd brings and stuff. I was talking to Brantley Bell when he went out there for that series, and he said it was electric, and I was going to love it when I got out there. So I got a really good review from him. I'm just really excited with all the things that I heard about it.
Well, guys, as you know, if you want to see Mitch and everybody play in the UAE Series February 14th to the 16th, you can go right now to Platinumlist and get your tickets there. And Mitch, thank you so much for joining me today, man. Looking forward to watching you compete.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, man.